Keep going.
Yeah. I think one of my favorite things about working at Butler in particular is just the amount of land that we have available to us. Our school's on 22 acres of property, and we border a state park. So there's just an expansive amount of land, and administration has been really great about encouraging us to get outdoors and really take advantage of that space. And there's almost nothing better for the kids than doing a 20-minute hike before a work period, because I really settle in afterwards. And as a part of that land, we have an equestrian program, and it's just incredible because they actually get to do small group rotations for free, just as a part of our being, just as part of being in Lower Elementary, where about 4 students will go and they get to learn all about horses. They learn to groom and to tack and how to ride them and just care for horses, and also to not be afraid of them, because 6-year-olds are really small and horses are really big, and so there's some really great things that happen when students kind of continually join in the equestrian program, and when they ride on a weekly basis. Core strength is incredible because they have to hold themselves up on the horse while it's moving, and so there's a lot of muscles that get engaged, and their handwriting improves, their confidence improves. It's blown my mind, honestly, what some of the students have accomplished, or how they've grown just from being continually in an equestrian program. But we also have several creeks on campus, and we have rain boots up to knees, and we just go, and when the weather is nice, we go on a hike, we end at the creek, and we can usually count on finding a crawfish or two crayfish, whatever, to find and capture and get pinched, because if they're not gentle with it, it does pinch them. And there's clay in the banks, and they have made clay pinch pots from that clay that they find, and I'll let them dry it in the sun and see. Sometimes they crumble because they haven't made them strong enough, and there's just so much that they can experience and do out in nature on our campus.
Yeah, one of my favorite traditions is our Thanksgiving feast. It's a 4-day process at least, where the children will go on a field trip with one of their guides, and we go to Harris Teeter, which is really close by, and we buy the ingredients for soup. Rainey's class makes a soup, and my class makes a soup, and they chop the veggies, and they cook the lentils, and they work together to learn all this food prep. We talk about hygiene too. I'm not getting anybody sick, and we talk about nutrition and the nutritional value of all the vegetables that are in our soup.
Well, and some of them have never seen what a vegetable looks like before it's in soup. So finding out that a clove of garlic and a bulb of garlic are very different, because when it says 6 cloves, it doesn't mean pick up 6 bulbs of garlic, and what a leek or a big carrot looks like.
And it was really fun, because usually a field trip is very adult oriented, but when I took my group out and they didn't know what chard was, I said, well, I showed you who works here, what their uniform looks like, and you can go and ask. Remember, say, excuse me, are you available to help me with something? And you can ask your question. And so, they asked someone, and he didn't know what chard was, and we had to go ask somebody else. And then they had to choose, did they want rainbow chard or, the regular green one? And we talked about comparing the prices and how much money we had, and could we afford the rainbow chard, and yes, we could, because it was more beautiful, so that was the one we had to have in our soup. But it was a really fun experience for them, and they were all engaged, and they were all learning something, right? The younger children were learning their grace and courtesy, and the older children were learning how to handle money and responsibility.
Because we don't carry the money. Yeah. One of them carries the money.
And actually, one of my students dropped our wallet, which had all of our shopping money in it, and thankfully we didn't lose the money, but they learned the consequences of what could happen if we're not careful. So we did all the cooking, and then we have several campfires on campus. So both lower elementary classes went down, and we gathered with our families, with the students' families, and we just shared this amazing feast of soup, and we had parents volunteer to bring extra side dishes. And we just really enjoyed our time sitting by the creek and singing campfire songs with the ukulele. And that was just perfect. And we've been doing this for a couple of years. And when we were all finished eating, we went to this place which we call the forts. And the children love the forts, because for them it's a place where they can use their imagination and and they build what we call forts, but it's shelters that they would find sticks, and they have to ask for help if they're using a stick that's too big. You know, it's working together. They're learning how to work together. They're learning how to ask for help. They're learning about physics, really. You know, can this huge stick be held up by a smaller stick? Can I really carry this huge tree stump that was found here?
And they prop all these sticks up against a living tree and try to create some sort of teepee fort-like shape. Then if it's sturdy enough, they can actually go inside it.
Yeah, and that's really cool. And then they talk about, you know, we have to test the forts. So we talk about safety with the forts. Can we go inside if we're not sure if the fort is steady, right? And you see a really nice stick on someone else's forts. What do? Can you just go up and take it? So there's lots of lessons to be learned that the children are not even noticing that we're trying to teach them about this place that is like their playground. But they're having fun doing learning these lessons, these life lessons that are so important that I feel like you wouldn't learn in a traditional classroom. If we didn't get outside, I feel like we wouldn't be able to learn. They wouldn't be able to learn those things because they cannot be taught directly. It needs to be acted out, and it needs to be, they need to be fully engaged in the activity to learn those life skills.
From each other as well as from being outside.
Not just from the adult telling you, you know, you have to be nice and you have to ask for a stick, because what are the consequences when you take a stick out of someone's forts? Well, it might fall down and they might get really upset, right? And how to console a friend, how to be a good friend when that happens too. That's another life lesson for them.